we basically told everyone within the community that we knew, hey, we've got a bhangra team, we're starting. I don't think anyone took us seriously. I don't know if we took ourselves seriously at the time either, but we had a couple guys show up.
Yeah.
And literally it was the 5 sahotas, myself, and 2 other guys that showed up, and it was the original 8 that kind of started initially dancing on ABC. I had a severe, life-threatening neck injury, which kind of changed the trajectory of as to, what my plans in life were. I broke my neck in 4 places.
If you could give some advice, man, for Sandi community, right? The youth, right? The youngins in our community, right? Like, if even to the 18-year-old Harmeet.
Your parents want you to generally be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer.
Sure.
They don't want you to be a bhangra coach, right? When I did it was, my mom's like, what are you going to get out of bhangra? I'm worried about you, or, when I'm gone, how long can you do this? And, have been teaching now for over 15 years. I've had our own location for 8 years, and, no signs of stopping. So
you were the first person I reached out to get a podcast in, and I know you've been busy, I've been busy.
Yeah.
And finally, today's the day, guys. Today's the day. You guys ready? Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to the Mr. Real Estate Show. We're sitting down with the GOAT of the GOATs.
Stop.
The GOAT of the GOATs. I look up to this guy a lot. When I first moved into the Seattle area, this is one of the individuals that I saw that was out there making a difference for our community, for the kids, and I was attracted to him. So I want to introduce you guys to Harmeet Dhaliwal. What's up, my guy?
Thanks for having me. It's a long time coming. I know we had chatted a few months back about doing this. I appreciate your patience, but more than happy about what you're doing here, inside and outside of these podcasts you're making. Big fan of you and everything that you stand for as well. So I think we kind of gravitated towards each other since we met.
I know you were the first person I reached out to get a podcast in, and I know you've been busy, I've been busy.
Yeah.
And finally, today's the day, guys. Today's the day. We got Harmeet here. And if you don't know Harmeet and his team, they run ABC Bhangra Dance Center right here in Renton. And I really want to talk about that, man. When I was talking with you before, when I'm talking to my clients, they're always saying, we're going to take our kids to the dance center for bhangra, and it's always Harmeet, right? Like, how did ABC come to fruition, man? Like, tell me the story behind ABC, and then we'll kind of get into maybe a little bit about you. And
absolutely. I think that is a little bit multifaceted, and I might answer some of the questions you might ask after this.
Sure.
Get me where I got with ABC. So, born and raised here in Renton, Washington. I have an older sister who's about 4.5 years older than me. Had a dad who was really invested in making sure we were, well taken care of when it came to sports training and everything like that. My sister gravitated towards basketball, as did I. And, Desi parents being Desi parents, get good grades, you can play basketball. If you don't get good grades, you can't. So, I always made sure I was, staying on top of it in school, and, took basketball pretty seriously from a very, very young age. From the age of, I would say, about 4 or 5, I was playing on a team to where I was competitively playing on traveling select teams that were traveling across the country and those sorts of things. So going into high school, I was really excited to, play at the highest level on varsity as a freshman. Got reasonable amount of playing time as a freshman in high school. Obviously, I'm still a freshman. Was excited to go into my sophomore year. The spring of my freshman year in high school, I had a severe, life-threatening neck injury, which kind of changed the trajectory of as to, what my plans in life were. I broke my neck in 4 places. Basically, in basketball, when you stand in front of someone and you try to take a charge, I'm sure you're well aware, but for the viewers that aren't,
sure.
You take a charge, and if you're standing straight, the ball goes to your team. And the guy at the time tried to dunk over me, he hit me and I hit the ground and I was fine, but I saw that the 6'7" guy was about to fall on top of me. So I tried to roll out of the way, and then his knee landed like right on the side of my neck, and immediately from my neck down, could not feel anything.
Wow.
So yeah, my dad and my grandpa are at the game. You know, first things first. Luckily, I wasn't completely knocked out. My teammates, when another teammate falls to the ground, what is the teammate's reaction? They run to come yank you to grab you up. And luckily, I wasn't knocked out to where I looked up at my teammates. I said, "Hey, don't touch me. I can't feel my body." And then that's when they kind of realized that something was wrong. You know, they called the ambulance. People are telling me, I didn't even know what happened at that point, right? People are telling me, oh, you know, don't worry. It might be a stinger. You might have hit your tailbone really hard. You'll be okay. So
freshman year, right?
Freshman year in the spring. Yeah, right after the winter basketball season ended. So they're taking me on my way to Harborview Medical Center. Mind you, my mom has been a nurse, retired now, but had been a nurse at Harborview for 40 plus years, and she was at work working at Harborview where they were taking me to the trauma center. They get me there. It's like a scene from Grey's Anatomy, if you guys have seen that show.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of doctors around me. They're asking me various questions. You know, long story short, I break my neck in 4 spots. And, you know, I have to fully rehab and recover. You know, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to gain all of my strength back. And after surgery and those sorts of things, you know, when the doctor said that, you know, let's see what type of recovery that you make, you know, let's focus on that. And I told the doc, you know, like when do I get to play competitive basketball again? Because I was literally that shy kid that was, you know, had friends, but I was only focused on basketball. Like that's what it was, basketball in school. And then the doctor was like, Harmeet, I'll be right back. The spinal surgeon comes back and shows me x-rays of my neck and then shows me x-rays of a healthy neck with the vertebrates. And he shows me where each specific fracture was. And one of my fractures was on, I believe, my C2, which is closer to the brain. And he said, if this fracture was a few millimeters higher, you would be dead right now. So he was like, I know you're really focused on trying to play basketball again, but let's get you up and running to a full, you know, capacity to where, you know, you can recover from this and live a normal life. Mom being an RN and overprotective mom as is, basketball was shut down from there on out. So I wasn't able to play ball.
Like, no more.
Yeah. So, you know, luckily I did make a recovery enough to where I was able to go back to school sophomore year in high school. And, I was kind of a kid that, you know, was still doing okay in school, but then I kind of didn't have any, you know, passions or hobbies. All I knew was basketball. And that kind of ties things into my dad a little bit, rest in peace, Ravinder Singh Dhaliwal. He always had a love and passion for music, as does my mom, but I thought my dad did a little bit more. So bhangra, Punjabi music, you know, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, not just bhangra music, but all Punjabi music in general, right? I was listening to that from a young age. So that's kind of where my love for Punjabi culture kind of started. And then pair that with a lost kid who doesn't know exactly, you know, what's next for him, right? Outside of just kind of going to school and getting his grades. So behind my mom's back, I wasn't playing basketball for my high school team. There's no way you could hide playing high school basketball from your mom.
Sure.
But my sister was in college at the time at the University of Washington, and there was an Indian Student Association that was doing a 3-on-3 tournament. It was strictly only desis, apne, to play in the basketball tournament. And my eyes lit up, right? I was still kind of practicing with the team just as kind of like an advisor, like a player kind of development kind of coach type of deal where I was helping the players that were on the team. And my eyes lit up. You know, I grew up playing against, you know, a.k.a. 6'7" a.k.a. I played against former NBA players that are in the NBA now. And retired. So for me, I was like, oh, I'm playing against Apne. This is going to be easy. Right? That's just kind of how my attitude was at that point. And I didn't, you know, growing up in Renton and still in the Renton Highlands now, there wasn't that big of a Punjabi community over there. So I wasn't really, you know, I knew the friends of my sisters that were Punjabi, but I wasn't really in tune with the Punjabi community that much. And because of this basketball tournament, I told my sister, I was like, hey, you know, let me play in this tournament. I'm just going to play in it, and I can find a group of a couple Punjabi guys. I'm sure I can ask around and figure it out. So A friend of hers was willing to play on my team, and he knew a couple of guys that also played basketball that were in Renton as well. They went to the other high school, but they did not look Punjabi at all. They're the Sahotas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I met Ranveer through playing in that basketball tournament. We summed that up. We got second place in that basketball tournament, and we almost beat a community college team while doing it, which was kind of cool. But I kind of started playing in these 3-on-3 tournaments, and then when I met Ranveer and the rest of his family, his 2 little brothers and his 2 cousins, it was kind of basically like 5 brothers they were, and then myself, and that's right when YouTube was taking off.
Late 2000s.
Yeah, man, it makes me feel old.
Yeah.
But yeah, right when YouTube was a thing, and when I was going on YouTube, there was these bhangra teams that were posting their videos at these various different competitions.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, you know, there was teams back in the day like, you know, Khalsa Junction, you know, Share Foundation, Punjabi Surme, a lot of teams from California at the time that were,
Those are, I used to watch those videos.
Yeah, so, you know, we were watching this and we were like, you know, although we played basketball for fun here and there, Ranveer was like, hey man, why don't we start a bhangra team? And I'm like, hey, like, I think I have rhythm. You know, I love Punjabi music. You know, he learned a little bit when he was a kid, and he did local performances and stuff with his brothers. So I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So we held a tryout.
Yeah.
And we basically told everyone within the community that we knew, you know, hey, we've got a bhangra team we're starting. I don't think anyone took us seriously. I don't know if we took ourselves seriously at the time either, but we had a couple guys show up.
Yeah.
And literally it was the 5 Sahotas, myself, and 2 other guys that showed up, and it was the original 8 that kind of started initially dancing on ABC.
Were you still in high school when you guys formed this team? And
good question. Yeah, I was 17, so this was my junior year. Okay. So luckily I was able to kind of get into something that occupied my time. You know, young teenager, a lot of things you can get into.
Yeah.
And for me, I was always looking to channel my energy, you know, in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see where it's gotten you guys to.
Yeah,
today,
sorry. That was the longest answer.
No, I think it's good because
the most simple question.
It clarifies and it gives insight to everybody, because, you know, one thing that I know that most people know is Harmeet, ABC Dance Center, but you to kind of share your story, it kind of gets to the people to understand like how this happened, right? So you were 17, you met with, you know, Ranveer guys, the Sahotas. Were you guys the first like Punjabi, like the bhangra team here in the Seattle area, Washington State? Do you know that?
Yeah, you know, at the magnitude, at the level that we did it, I'm sure I would say we are. I don't want to take credit away from any group of friends that might have started a bhangra team, you know, a few years prior, but to the level that we took it to here in the Seattle area, definitely we're the only ones, I guess you could say, pioneers in a lot of ways. So yeah, we started our bhangra team in 2017, and it wasn't even a competitive level. It was, you know, let's dance at our friend's Sweet 16 birthday party. Yeah. And just make a routine and see how we do. Okay. And we danced and, you know, got some decent feedback from, you know, the crowd that watched. It's like, oh, you guys were pretty fun to watch. Keep doing it. And that slowly turned into, you know, we started reaching out to these competitions and stuff. Yeah. And then at that time, when you're a new team, they don't just allow you to come to their competition. They say, send us a 3-minute video or a professional video of your team doing a performance.
Your resume?
Yeah, your resume. And we don't have a resume. So we continued to do local performances. Ended up getting a big performance locally here at the Moore Theater. Okay. Called Dance This, where all cultural different dance forms come together and they perform at a show in front of like over 1,000 people at the Moore Theater, and sometimes it's even at the Paramount. So we've done it there as well, and we got a really nice video from that, the 8 of us that danced, and then we sent that video into a competition in Fresno called Bulldog Bhangra.
Bulldog, yeah. And
we applied to that competition. I remember we're getting some shots up playing basketball after school, and Ranveer gets a call from Bulldog Bhangra's committee, and they say, hey, you know, we got your video and we wanted to just give you a call and say, you know, congratulations, we would love to invite you to our competition. You guys have a couple days to accept. And he was like, you know, thank you, I appreciate that so much. I'll respond here within a day or so. He gets off the phone. we start jumping up and down like
exciting, huh?
little girls, just so happy. So yeah, that's kind of where it started and kind of where we took it to at our first competition in 2007. We started our team in 2006.
Yeah.
And within a year, we got into our first bhangra competition.
Okay. Oh, so how was that bhangra competition?
Man, it was fun. Did
you guys win?
You know, we did.
No,
I think there was 11 teams, and I think we got 11th. So it was definitely a humbling experience. But the experience itself was so cool. I immediately fell in love with it, watching all of these other teams bring, various different creativity. It wasn't just all guys bhangra teams. Kuriyan were doing bhangra as well. They were doing such a good job. And then just, bringing the culture together, traveling with your friends, getting to do something at a competitive level. That's exactly what I was personally looking for, because that's what I was kind of doing with basketball, right?
It's a competitive sport.
It's a competitive sport when you get to a competitive level in bhangra. So we got 11th place, and we looked at each other and we were like, it was really fun participating, but maybe we should take this even more seriously and really practice. Like, let's take it even more seriously and take it to the next level. So, any gig, any wedding reception, anything, when we came back, we took every gig, did most of them for free.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And, we just did it for the love of bhangra and culture, right? We were really trying to get better at it at a competitive level, and at the same time, spread our culture within the community. So I think there was another competition where we didn't get a first, second, or third, or a placing. And then at a third competition within a year after 2007, in 2008, we got third place at our third competition, which was a big, big deal.
Where was this?
It was at Bhangra Idols, which was a big competition that used to happen early 2000s all the way up until the mid 2015, 2016 era, around there. So
where's this competition based out of?
It is based out of Vancouver, BC.
Okay, up in BC.
Yes.
So third competition, you guys placed?
Yeah, we got third place.
Third place. It must have been exciting.
It was. We're excited. There's people in the crowd that are, after the competition coming up, asking for pictures and this and that. And I'm just a young kid. It's like, wow, people really appreciate, a good performance when they see one and those sorts of things. And, from there on out, we really had a local name for ourselves.
Yeah.
And again, starting with your initial question is how did, ABC Dance Center start? In 2009, at that time, Ranveer, as well as Arjun, they started teaching bhangra at a local community center for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And they continued to grow that, and there was a handful of students when they started, and then they continued to grow that, and then about a year or two in, I took interest into that. I loved kids.
Yeah.
And I joined, and we started teaching together, and had such an amazing time. For me, the ability to connect with kids through bhangra was something that, for me, it just felt like the most amazing thing. And it started very, very small, and then we slowly continued to teach and grow it. And I can speak more to that.
Yeah. So can I ask you the why? Why do you feel when you're working with the kids, what drives that passion?
Yeah. So for me personally, what I saw in sports, for example, I didn't see a lot of Punjabi kids in sports at a competitive level. Not to say that there aren't now. There's a lot doing great things at a, very competitive level. But for a lot of Punjabi kids, and, kids in general, there's just not an outlet for them to channel their energy in a positive way if they're not good at a sport. Because at some level, when you get to a certain sport, if you don't make the team, you just don't make the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And at bhangra, although we do have competitive teams, we have a spot at our dance studio for anyone and everyone, right? So giving kids an outlet to, channel their energy in a positive way was very, very important. My sister was and is a great role model for me. And for me personally, I wanted to make sure that I went down the quote unquote right path, and I wasn't doing anything negatively to, harm myself or, put my family's name or anyone in harm's way. So, it started with a passion of music, and then it turned into enjoying and loving bhangra myself. And then, spreading it to the youth and showing them how fun it is. And then at the same time, I also realized when I first started doing it, how beneficial it was for kids, right? You've got, you know, Chai Balvinder walks through the door and Balvinder doesn't want to even look at me. He's scared of me. I take that as a challenge. I'm like, okay, he's scared. His mom or dad might have made him come here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes Jabardasti pon diya Bhangra, right?
Yeah, ji.
So, I'll look at a kid like that and I'll take on a personal challenge to be like, okay, I'm going to really make him, one, enjoy this, and two, see the benefits from this, right? So first things first is earning the trust of the kid, making sure you can make them laugh and, teach them Bhangra in a fun way. That's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
A big thing here at ABC that, we really think is important is building youth to contribute to society at the highest level in the biggest or smallest of ways. So, the kid comes in, they're shy. Bhangra doesn't not only teaches them obviously how to dance, but Bhangra teaches them confidence, right?
Yeah.
Now these kids are having to get up on a stage in front of a whole bunch of people, months after they started learning, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm performing.
Yeah.
And that turns into, I even looked and talked to the students. I'm like, hey, you're about to go on for your first performance. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
And, I have a conversation with them after. I'm like, did you have fun? How did you enjoy that? They're like, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then obviously parents love their kids watching them get on a big stage, but so much more than Bhangra that they learn. They learn confidence. Like I said, they once they start dancing at a competitive level, they learn teamwork.
Yeah.
They learn leadership. There's cousins of mine that have danced on our Bhangra team that have used Bhangra to get them into medical school. They will go into their med school interview, optometry school, dental school, and they talk about how Bhangra shaped their life and, put them in the positions that they are to really impact their community, one, but two, just be a well-rounded individual. Anyone can be book smart, but at the same time, what are you doing for the greater good to, promote your culture?
I can say I appreciate that a lot. Growing up in an area where there was maybe 2 Punjabi kids at school, in California back in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have learned Bhangra when I was younger.
Yeah.
I think I came to you before my wedding. I was like, hey, bro, teach me Bhangra.
As do a lot of people right before the wedding, like a month before. Hey, Harmeet, I need you to help me.
So, but more than just Bhangra, you're also taking kids at such an age where they're open to learning, right?
Yeah.
Like I was very shy. I mean, it might not seem like it today, but growing up as a kid, I was very shy, right? I was an introvert, right? But until I got into sports sophomore year of high school and started opening up. So that concept applies to Bhangra, right? You're the teamwork. There's a great leader in place, right?
For sure.
The coach is here.
Thank you.
So you're developing these kids. They're not just learning Bhangra, they're learning how to communicate with others, right? Get out of their comfort zone. And I think when they start learning that at such a young age, as they get older, into their teens and even their 20s, they're a little bit more comfortable being out there in the world, right? And going on job interviews and things like that. And
it's amazing. No, it directly correlates to their professional lives, whether it be in school, we've got kids that have been valedictorians for their class, they're getting up and talking to the graduating class. They're excelling. I've got high school kids right now that are taking classes at the University of Washington at the age of 14.
Yeah.
One of our kids, one of our kids is the youngest kid to ever get a bachelor's degree at UW, and he'll be attending dental school at the age of 17.
Wow.
So that's small examples. I'm not taking credit for it. Really smart kids, but for them to come to me and just say, similar to you, I was an introvert. I didn't have much confidence, and this brought the best out of me in so many various different ways.
Breaking them out of their shell, man.
For sure.
And your contribution to that. I think you play a role.
In the smallest of ways, biggest of ways, I'm happy to be there.
Yeah. So with ABC, if we just kind of touch in on that, I'm sure I have a lot of parents that are probably watching, right, that are thinking like it's just a Bhangra class, like right, but ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ, it's not just a Bhangra class. You're actually developing the kids.
Very true.
Sometimes the parents, they're at work all day.
Yeah.
They're at home, ਘਰ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ? Video games ਖੇਡਦੇ.
Exactly.
Right. So having them starting into bhangra at such a young age, it can help them really set them up for their success in their schools, college.
100%. You nailed it right on the
Yeah.
head. A lot of parents are immigrants still. They come from, humble backgrounds to where parents have to be at work all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, kids are trying to find a way to channel their energy. And, oftentimes it resort to, after school, it's just video games and
Yeah,
they don't
absolutely.
have that many friends. Parents are obviously keeping them sheltered. They don't want them to do anything that's gonna, hurt their kids, which I understand. But at the same time, giving them something that one promotes Punjabi culture, which
Yeah.
is great. Believe it or not, there's kids that come that don't speak a lick of Punjabi,
Yeah.
and they've been coming to Bhangra now for 5 years. They're singing every song, and even when I'm teaching, मैं नाल दी नाल Punjabi ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਸਿਖਾਉਣਾ, I kind of explain to them, why Bhangra started, what this move is and how it relates to Bhangra and all of these things, and holi holi Punjabi भी बोलਣ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ. So
I think what you said, man, that's so crucial. Like growing up in a very cultural, colorful culture, right?
yeah,
And what I see with especially a lot of the youth is a lot of them kind of getting away from the culture.
yeah,
Right.
they do.
And I kind of I can kind of relate. I was that kid, that teenager, because I didn't really have any Punjabi friends, Indian
Sure.
friends. But as I got in my 20s and I started reconnecting, like I just kind of fell in love with it, man.
Yeah,
Started
that's great.
I didn't listen to Punjabi music until I was like 21, 22 years old. That like before
Wow.
it was just like, hip hop, R&B, 50 Cent, Eminem,
Yeah.
G Unit days, things like that. But creating that connection with the kids to still remember their culture.
Yeah,
I think that's so crucial for their future and what they do. They're always going to remember that. And we're talking about kids, like I know you guys teach adults too.
yeah.
So is it like, what's the youngest? Like,
Wow.
what's your oldest
So,
Bhangra student?
sometimes it's easy to, on our marketing material, sometimes, people always ask, what's the youngest age I can put my son or daughter in Bhangra? And I never put a number on that,
Yeah.
Like, believe it or not, there have been the cutest 3-year-olds that come in, and for me it's more about, can I keep your attention for a full hour, right? If a 3-year-old comes in and they're running around and they're wild and they're this and they're that, and I said, check me needs deklo, bring them back, see how it goes, right? Because we don't want them to disrupt the rest of the class. But there have been 5-year-olds that will do the same thing that are not necessarily ready, and then sometimes a 3-year-old is ready. So we've had kids as young as 3 join Bhangra, and we're able to keep their attention for the full hour, and those 3-year-olds end up turning into the prodigies when they're age 5 or 6. They're
winning championships.
They're way past anyone else when it comes to the skill level. And then you mentioned the adults. It started with parents are bringing their kids, and parents really enjoy watching Bhangra classes. Believe it or not, a lot of Bhangra classes back in Canada and other academies, they keep practices closed, meaning they have the parents drop the kids off.
Yeah.
They'll allow you to watch 1 or 2 practices, and then parents will just drop the kids off, and we're okay with that too. But I always encourage parents, if you sit and watch us teach a class, you'll understand that it's much more than Bhangra that the kids are learning.
Yeah.
And so be it, it's very healthy in what it is as well too. And we've been blessed to actually open 2 studios that are right next to each other. So we teach 2 classes at the same time. And oftentimes parents are just sitting in the back when their kids are dancing, and I'm like, like we can use the other room while you guys are your kids are dancing, you guys can learn at the same time too. So it's not just parents of kids. There's other people that, similarly to you, that take interest in Bhangra later on in their adult life, whether it be something to where, going to the gym and getting on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes is something that they dread. But now they're listening to Sidhu Moosewala and they're doing Bhangra, and they're forgetting how tired they are because of how much fun they're having. Yeah. And, I'll sometimes tell them to look at their Apple Watch, and I'll say, set your Apple Watch out and check how many calories you burn in the end of the hour. And they're astonished when they see, like, wow, like this was such a great workout, and such a positive outlet. And one other thing I wanted to speak to is, absolutely, I've had a couple of women, stay-at-home wives and those sorts of things come to me, and they're like, my job in my life is seeing family nu sambalna, right? I got to make sure my kids are eating. I got to make sure, everything's taken care of at the house. But mere liye aapde liye time milda nahi, right?
That's so common.
Which is common, right?
Yeah.
For Punjabi women, and they come to me and they're like, "Jada mainu ek ghante Monday te milda ithe."
Yeah.
Like I release all my energy and everything, my stress, and I get that 1 hour for myself. And I'm so grateful that you created something like this. So it's definitely aerobic, but at the same time, we're working on now in 2025. A little bit delayed in doing this, have just been so busy, but in 2025 we're working on creating a dance recital or a dance event for all of our Bhangra students. We've got well over 250 or so students now, and unfortunately not all 250 students get to compete at the competitive level.
Okay.
Certain teams, certain dancers that have been coming for a certain amount of time, that have put in that time and energy and effort, that are ready, we'll put them at the competitive level. But that doesn't mean we don't want to give all the kids the opportunity to perform on a big stage. So, next year we're looking to, do a local event, promote our Punjabi culture, not just ABC, anyone else who, would like to promote the culture, whether you're a singer, whether you play dole, whether it is, not just Bhangra, we also have Gidda now as well.
Yeah.
So,
Is it an event that you guys are conducting, or is it something that there's an event going on where you're performing?
Good question. So this is going to be our own event that we're working on conducting.
So you guys are hosting, conducting, everything.
Yes.
What's the purpose of the event?
The purpose of the event, like I said, one of the main purposes is allowing kids that don't get to dance on a big stage to provide that big stage for all of the kids, regardless of their skill level, if that makes sense. In basketball, kids go to practice, and they practice and they practice and they practice, but they want to play in the game.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Bhangra, you can practice and you can practice and you can practice, but the game, quote unquote, is the performances. Right? It isn't not necessarily competitions, but performing on a stage, right? That's why I always encourage students, and a lot of my students do this, is, if your uncle or aunt or your cousin is getting married, right? It builds confidence, and we prepare kids for their dance performances at local weddings, juggles, those sorts of things, and even have changed that into making performances custom made for the bride and grooms themselves when they want to do a Bhangra performance or a Gidda performance. That's something that we also offer as well.
Okay, so it's it sounds like you're running the dance center, ABC Studio. You got the kids, but at the same time, for weddings, functions, I mean, I've seen it, but for maybe people that want to hire like a performance team, that's something that you guys do as well.
Yeah, we definitely have dancers that compete at a competitive level, that have been around Bhangra for a long time, and if people are wanting to raise the energy level before their open dance floor starts at their special event, whether it be a birthday, a wedding reception, a wedding anniversary, whatever you want to call it, we love to enhance everyone's party the best way that we can. They come when they're full Bhangra vardiyan, Bhangra wali pag, turle wali bande a. I've been tying those for a long time. You tie a nice, great pug, by the way, as well. Mainu dastar nahi banana aunda hale, but I can tie a Bhangra pug pretty well now too. So.
No, man, you should see the first picture.
Oh yeah,
takes time, right? It's like Bhangra, right? The first time
man.
You go to, and you got to keep practicing, practicing. So where do you see, ABC Dance Center, yourself, in the next 10 years, man? Like, what are you guys trying to do?
That's a good question. I feel like I've gotten to a point now with ABC. Personally, I don't have any kids yet. And at the point where I do end up having kids, I know at some point I'm not going to be able to be as 110% involved as I am right now, as much as I want to be. And that's something that I'm coming to terms with. But by no means does that mean that ABC will not continue. What I think is really important to me is, keeping this passed down from generation to generation, right? For example, we've got a few girls that have been, learning bhangra from us since the age of 5, and now they're age 16 or 17.
Oh, wow.
And they're, traveling, winning the biggest competitions, and, a lot of these girls are teaching bhangra now.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, giving them the opportunities to teach. That way, if some of us other teachers have to step back a little bit, kids are still getting the opportunity to, shine their light on their confidence, spread their culture, and do all of those positive things that we do at ABC. So, wow, a 10-year plan, continuing to grow it, giving people, I guess you could say geographically, that can't come to Renton where our studio is, the opportunity to do it, so potentially expand.
Yeah.
That's definitely a part of it. And then the other big piece, like I said, is we opened up our own location in 2017 here in Renton. A big part of that is we want to do an annual event every year where we allow, not just the kids, but parents, everyone, an opportunity to get on a big stage and then promote our Punjabi culture.
Okay.
And having been in the competitive bhangra circuit for a long time now too, a lot of the coaches are all coming to me and saying, Harmeet, you would do a great job throwing a bhangra competition itself.
Yeah.
And, generally the bigger bhangra academies across America, North America are the ones that do the competition. So that's definitely within less than 10 years. I want to do a bhangra competition at the highest level where, our community locally here gets to see how, well trained and how amazing bhangra is, not just in Seattle, but everywhere around the world.
That's a very big goal, man.
Yeah.
I can see it happening.
It's not easy, but definitely working on some moves that will allow us to do that.
No, absolutely. Here's one question that I have, Harmeet. And a lot of people, they when they talk about ABC, Harmeet, you guys, the Sahotas, right? And maybe if we can touch on this briefly, right?
Sure.
You still work a professional life as well.
Yeah.
And you balance bhangra and training the kids,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Maybe for someone who doesn't know, what do you do as a profession too?
Yeah, no, for sure. And quick shout out to my wife, Megan. She allows me to be as involved as I am in bhangra, in addition to having a professional life with work. It's definitely a lot. And having someone who supports your goals and dreams and is aligned with them is great. So definitely shout out to my wife. But going back to your question of, what do I do professionally? I've always been a person who pursued my passions. And like I said, after I lost basketball, bhangra became that passion. So when I was steadfast and focused on bhangra, even at the University of Washington, when I did my undergrad in biochem, I didn't have the hottest grades. A little bit of that had to do with, wanting to make the parents happy and getting a science background so I could pursue something medical in the future. But a little bit of that, honestly, it was on me. I wasn't as focused as I should have been. And the primary focus was on these bhangra competitions, right? So I'm making sure the whole team's ready when we're holding extra practices and we're doing all of these things, right? So long story short, I graduate from the University of Washington. The goal was to go to optometry school.
Okay.
Took the test to get into optometry school, the OAT. Didn't do as great as I wanted to on it. Studied for it again. Did a little bit better, but still wasn't at the level that I wanted it to be. And then I kind of asked myself, what is it that I really want to do? And I knew that if I ended up pursuing going to optometry school and making it work, bhangra wouldn't have gotten to where it has today, and I kind of would have had to let it go.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it still is and always will be. It's like my baby, right? So I made the decision to, get a job working in healthcare at Kaiser in the very beginning after graduating from university, just to help make some money, and then continuing bhangra and continuing to teach bhangra and stuff. And then got to the point where I was like, I want to open my own location. And my mom's like, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
There's a lot of expenses that come along with that. Is this what you want to do the rest of your life? your parents want you to generally be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer.
Sure.
They don't want you to be a bhangra coach, right? So when I told my mom and my sister and my dad, believe it or not, my dad was the only one that, was like, if this is what you really love to do, I'll support you. And my mom and my sister, they did support me, but they did voice their concern as to, is this really going to take you where you need to go? So, I stayed steadfast, and I stay steadfast on my passions, which is, impacting the youth in a positive way.
Yeah.
And that opened other doors for me that I couldn't have even imagined. So there was a physician that brought his daughter in to bhangra. I had no idea he was a physician. And at this time, I was working as a recruiter at Kaiser.
Okay.
So I worked my way up to being a recruiter over there, and was recruiting doctors, nurse practitioners, and PAs at that level. And then he just loved my vibe. I loved his vibe, and he invited me over for dinner one day. He also lives close to me, and we have a great conversation. And during this conversation, he's making dinner. He's spinning a pizza on his hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And basically told me he started a healthcare company. And during dinner a few times flirted with the idea of, you should just drop what you're doing over there at Kaiser and just come work for me.
Yeah.
My first time hanging out with this guy, I don't know if he's really serious or not, right? So I'm like, okay, fukuronda, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So believe it or not, 6 months go down the road. Some things change from a managerial standpoint at my job in Kaiser, to where I just see a long, kind of painful road to get to where I want to go. So I messaged him, and he was like, Harmeet, I've been waiting for you to message me. I've got your whole job description written out. Meet me at the Starbucks by my house.
Yeah.
And I met him, and that was about 6 months into him starting his healthcare company. And I've been at that company ever since.
Okay.
So, although I love bhangra, there's an expensive world we live in.
Sure.
So, to support, my family and to get to the goals that I want to get to, I do have to keep a job for it. I really enjoy the job. As you can see, I like to talk a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing, man.
Yeah, so now I'm the director of recruiting at that healthcare company for the last 5 years, and that door was open through my bhangra school.
You know what I take away too is, like, you still held on to that passion, right? Is you were able to find a way to do both.
Yeah.
And it kind of happened, right? You met the right people. If it wasn't for bhangra, you probably never run into this gentleman, right?
100%. He's like a brother and a mentor now. So
if you could give some advice, man, for Sardi community, right? The youth, right? The youngins in our community, right? Like, if even to the 18-year-old Harmeet, right? The kid that's just graduating high school, he doesn't know what he wants to do in life. Like, maybe a few sentences of, like, advice on how to figure out, which direction to go in their life.
That's a good question, and that's a tough one to answer.
And there's no wrong answer.
Yeah. What would I tell an 18-year-old kid that may not know exactly what it is that they want to do, and they feel like they're a little bit lost?
Let me add one more thing too. Who's getting pressure from his parents? Because Indian families, right?
Okay.
Indian parents are always saying, school job, padhai ka, degree la. But the kid, he feels like he's being forced to do that.
For sure.
But maybe there's something that's burning inside that he wants to do something else. I don't know. Hopefully I didn't add too much to that question, man.
Sure, that was a lot. Okay, so let's see. There's, various things I would tell to a young kid that may not know exactly what they want to do. I definitely think pursuing your passion is very, very important, but at the same time, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Meaning, although I was pursuing bhangra, for example, I was still trying to grow my professional career.
You're still going to school.
From when I started it, right? Yeah. So same thing with a young 18-year-old kid. I'm going to say, go to college. At the end of the day, whatever passion you're pursuing, do that at the same time. Are you going to be a busy college kid? Absolutely. But go to college so you have something to fall back on.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, because, cost of living is very, very high here in Washington. So, living a comfortable life is very, very important. And I would tell a young kid that, definitely have an education to fall back on, but that doesn't mean you don't pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
That just means you put in overtime
Yeah.
to make sure you pursue what it is that you want, to where, it becomes undeniable, and then everyone has to kind of accept it, is what I tried to do with, when I did it was, my mom's like, what are you going to get out of bhangra? I'm worried about you for, when I'm gone, how long can you do this? And, have been teaching now for over 15 years. I've had our own location for 8 years, and, no signs of stopping. So,
yeah. How does she feel now?
Sorry?
How does she feel now?
She, when she saw me get an opportunity professionally from it, and she was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I say told you so. She's stubborn.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn too. I get that from my mom. But, hard work ethic, I get that all from my mom. She held our family down for forever. My dad did as well, but, mom was the one who was really putting in that extra time and that effort, professionally, to make sure we were given everything that we were ever wanted.
Yeah.
Growing up. And that's exactly what I want for my family, my wife, my future kids, is, give them a life at the very least the same that my mom gave me, because if it's any less, it's a failure for myself, because, my mom came to America with $200.
Yeah.
And, she built this great empire within, her life. And I feel like I was given all the resources and tools to do something positive and great. And just hoping I'm making her proud.
I think you're making the community proud, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And if we could maybe finish it off here, what impact do you want to leave behind, man?
Oh, man. This is a deep question. So I think I said this before to a few of my close friends is, at the end of the day, I want to be known as someone who contributes to society in a positive way. But more importantly, towards, our Punjabi culture, you see so many people having these interracial marriages, which, I'm all in support of. It's 2024. It's going to happen, and that's fine. But I still do think whether, you marry within your culture or outside of your culture, the culture that you come from should not die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And bhangra is a big way for them to just promote Punjabi culture, speak the language, and those sorts of things. So definitely want to be remembered for that, but just, a positive human being. Hopefully I can make my friends laugh, and we've had some good times, but I want to be judged by how many people I touched in the littlest or smallest of ways, because I feel like someone's judged based on how many people come to their funeral.
Yeah.
So I just want my funeral to be one of the biggest funerals you've ever seen, based on how many kids, parents, friends I've touched in the smallest or biggest of ways.
I want to say, man, I think you're making an amazing impact, bro. And I think that was one of the reasons that I was attracted to you, for what you're doing for the kids, but for the culture, the community.
Oh, man, I appreciate that.
I can just go on, man. So I appreciate that. Is there anything that you want to share, maybe something that I didn't ask? Any final thoughts? Final thoughts.
The final thing I would like to say is, it's not just a message to my kids at bhangra, but, any of these kids within our community is, your parents are doing their best. And oftentimes you're not going to agree with them, but especially when you're young, try to listen to what they're telling you, because they've been around the block a little bit more than you, and your parents have your best interest. And I've been a culprit of that, to where I'm like, oh my God, Mom, what are you talking about? And, we still butt heads to this day, but, one day your parents may not be there. I lost my father about 6 years ago, and it's very important to me that, kids within our community, one, respect their parents, cherish their parents, and take care of them as they get old. So that's how I want to finish. Thanks, guys.
Shout out to the parents.
Shout out to the parents.
I appreciate you, man.